Welcome to the Fashion Translator. I'm Claire, your host. Together we explore how AI and innovation are reshaping the fashion industry through creativity, technology, and global partnership. For today's episode, I'm excited to welcome Dinah Chapman, founder of Little Trouble. Dinah, welcome to the show. Could you please introduce yourself and the company?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm Dinah Chapman. I started Little Trouble about 3.5 years ago now. I was pregnant with my first son and I was working in corporate and truly was just online one night looking for boys' clothes. Once I found out I was having a boy, I had a little bit of gender sadness when I found out I was having a boy because I always thought I'd have a girl first for whatever reason. So I started just looking around for some clothing options and I realized there was a really big gap in the market for kids' clothes, specifically for boys in the States. There wasn't anything like really cool or alternative that I was looking for. So through like many hours of scrolling on my phone as a newly pregnant woman, I decided I was going to put all my eggs into one basket and shoot my shot and do something for myself. I then went on maternity leave and that's when I really started to invest time in the brand, which was hilarious thinking I would have time on maternity leave to start a side business. But that is where Little Trouble came from, just a true passion project come to life and really centered around my kids. And now 3.5 years later, I've got 2 boys and they are a big amount of Little Trouble.
Great. How would you describe your target customer? Of course, it started with you and with your boys, but how is it expanding on now?
Yeah, it's a great question. I still design everything as if it's just for myself, like what I would like to find in the market. Because when I started LT, I had a hunch there's got to be other parents out there with my similar style, like millennial parents wanting to dress our kids in anything but dinosaurs and trucks from the big box stores that we knew of. And especially when I started to see what would the best baby shower gifts were, I was like, oh no, there is a better baby or gifts to be made. And so the core customer is a millennial parent, but since we've been growing, we also have this really amazing, rapidly growing boomer customer group who are grandparents. So it's just as much millennial parents as it is grandparents because nobody loves spoiling people more than grandparents. So that's been this really fun other niche that I'm designing towards and marketing towards. But I design everything as if I wanted to buy it. Would I go to a store and invest in that for my kids and would they like wearing it?
Tell us a bit more about your creative process. Where do the idea comes first? Is it fabric or trends or just something that you walk by that inspires you?
Oh, yeah, that's the best question because Little Trouble is so creative and design driven. I pull inspiration from everywhere, but a lot of times comes from my kids, what they're into or what little boys love. So I knew, okay, it's dinosaurs, it's fire trucks, it's T-Rex, something like that. So I was there's got to be cooler ways to make these really friendly kid icons. And so smiley faces are a huge part of my brand. Then I pull skate inspo or Y2K vibes from my upbringing. So I put my smiley faces in a slouchy beanie and he says homie on the front. Or my kids love monster trucks. So I do a souped up monster truck with a crazy dude with a juice can. That's his fuel. So I pull inspo from real kid icons, the things that we see traditional kids clothes in. But then also I will think of something I want to buy for my husband, a really cool pair of cargo pants, for example. And I was God, it'd be so cool if I had a matching pair for the boys. And so then I'll design an adult's version of something and then I'll just shrink it down and make it for kids. So it comes from a lot of places. And that's the fun blend of LT.
Yeah, it's a hybrid, an amalgam of all of these different pieces that comes together.
Yeah. Sometimes I'll see something a beautiful color palette and I'm that would make a really cool pop color overalls. And I'll take a picture of something and literally pull those colors and do a color block overall. It comes from anywhere.
That's great. When it comes to connecting with your customer or gathering feedback or just staying in touch, which platform would you say has the more tractions for you?
Instagram is where I've built my like entire customer base, and I'm a very organically social driven brand. I just approach it as being a really relatable mom. Like I'm just like in the shit, pun intended, like every other parent of toddlers, right? And babies. And so I started this organic community online, and I talk to women over lives, in the DMs, Facebook. Like those are the core places where I've built the community and actually engage with the customer. I'm super active in lives or in my comments, in my DMs. And then now at scale, if they haven't found me on organic social, we spend a ton of time surveying customers in the inbox, post-purchase. Like I've also found that the products people want and the things that like help drive the business forward are really in the customer service inbox of even just like people asking or what their product needs are. So it's a blend of those, but Instagram is still my tried and true, and I'm in those DMs an ungodly amount.
I think it makes an impact and a difference for sure to keep the connection further than after purchase, to have this longevity in terms of how you establish the connection with the client.
It's funny, my customer service team, sometimes they'll Slack me and they'll say, hey, do you know such and such with such and such email? And I'll say, no, why? Oh, they addressed it like, hey, Dinah. Even though I don't know that customer, we don't actually have a friendship or a relationship. We've probably DM'd or they've watched my lives or we've had some sort of engagement. So I really let the customers into my life and the design process, and I pull what they want to see. And yeah, it's funny when they're like, oh my gosh, I thought you knew them. And I'm like, no, but whatever they need, take care of them. Or if they do need me, sometimes they'll come DM and I still am the one that's doing all of that.
That's nice. When it comes to the trends, do you also keep a look on what's going generally in children's wear in terms of trends or like innovation or new silhouettes?
Yeah, I'd say I look more at general fashion trends than I do in kids. So I try to look at what's popular or trending typically for adults. And then I'm like, how do I spin this into something cool for little kids? Because I find that's what sets Little Trouble apart is that I do all cut and sew. Things are custom patterned and graded. So typically you wouldn't find this like really cool detail-oriented cargo pants for a 2-year-old and like a pull-on cotton twill basic pair of pants. And so I do definitely look at trends for that and follow trends. And then you asked about material earlier. A lot of times I'll see like a trending material or pattern, and then I'll say, what can I do to bring this into the kids space? I just did that. I saw this like amazing flannel material and was like, I'm going to make baggy cargo pants out of those, which is so off the wall for standard kid stuff, but like your flannel Christmas jammies, but for the daytime. So like jammy day at school, but like cooler and baggy cargo style for Little Trouble.
Very interesting. Looking back so far, what would you say is something that you're proud of building or achieving with Little Trouble?
I'm really proud of the community and the reputation that Little Trouble has built. We are tried and true by thousands and thousands of moms and parents. We have so many amazing like reviews and traction with the quality of our products. It really gets me going and warms my heart when I see an ad of mine or something and it's just flooded with comments with real pictures of like real kids. And it's their mom or their dad or their grandma. And it's just like a normal day and they're walking to school or they're in the car seat or super relatable. And I'm like, that's so cool that they either love the material or the design made them smile. A lot of our stuff's like nostalgic and has really fun sayings on it. I'm most proud of the community, but also the reputation and what Little Trouble stands for has been the most exciting thing to build. And then the growth has been the most rewarding from a business perspective, just to be able to have entered the space pretty recently and done some really amazing things with the brand.
Even through this picture, you can tell how you're part of their everyday life. Like it's expanding the reach. Yeah, I'm sure that's heartwarming.
Like even today, I was in Shopify working on something and I saw one of the most recent orders was from this like very small town that my brother lives near. You know, it's like a hot spot like in LA or New York. And I was like, that is so crazy. We've expanded to like niche small areas of the country. And I went to Legoland a few months ago and I saw so many kids in Little Trouble. And that was like so surreal. I'm like, oh my God, that's my shirt. It's really cool.
And their dream turned into reality.
Totally. And my husband's always, go say something, go say something. And I'm like, no, that's weird. I just like admire from afar. Sometimes I'm like, cool shirt, but that's about as much as I'll say.
That's very interesting to see things coming to real life and get to witness in action when they're going to the park or all of this. When it comes to running your business, which area has most of your focus right now?
Right now, design. I'm in like a really design heavy phase, just going into Q1 of next year. So that's probably the heaviest area, but it's just my husband and I still. So I've got a customer service team, which is amazing. Thank everyone for that because I could not have sustained much longer, but I held off on that for the longest time for many reasons. But my husband handles a lot of the operational stuff in terms of the flow of inventory and the warehousing, but I do design, marketing, customer experience, etc. So I fluctuate between like heavily invested in design and development. I travel a lot to factories for quality inspection and textile sourcing, and then sometimes I'm like buried in marketing, whether it's leading up to Black Friday or doing content creation. So right now I'm like heavily in spring design, and I'd love to be closing that chapter soon because it gets intense when you're like so tunnel vision on one.
Yes, it's a push to give. There's a lot of work to do to get it up the ground, and then after it'll flow.
Everyone says, oh my gosh, it's the dream, right? Running your own business or being an entrepreneur, and mine's an e-com brand, so I can run it from my computer from anywhere essentially. Yeah. But if you go from working a hectic corporate job, I was working about 60 hours a week then.
Yeah.
And I was in marketing. First, now I work, 80 hours, 100 hours. You're up working late. It's 3 a.m. You're taking a call, whatever you've got to do. So it's always like that grind. And then I'm like, okay, after I finish this, I'll breathe a little, but then something else comes up. Those are the daily sacrifices for what you get to reap as the reward.
I think this is really relevant to discuss because it's one of the reasons why I started the podcast is I want to bring awareness and transparency for the consumer so that they can have a behind the curtain look at what it really takes to bring a brand to life, what it really takes to have garments from idea into the real world. There is so much going on and there's a lot of different steps and different parts that have to be all moving together. So thank you for sharing a bit about the insight. I want that to become common knowledge. This way, the consumer gets another level of appreciation for all the work that goes behind it.
Yeah, it's so true. We also live in such an interesting time where you can go to an Alibaba and buy something generic and no customization for a very cheap price shipped directly. It's a very interesting time to work in fashion and design because I think a lot of consumers think that's the standard process or that's what it's like and that's how easy it is now. Or on-demand printing. There's so many things that have revolutionized the industry in a lot of ways, but it does create this unrealistic expectation. That's another layer on the fashion industry or like consumer goods outside of just entrepreneurship and what it means to be running your own business and how you're always working versus people being like, oh, you get to make your own hours, you're your own boss. Yeah, but it's not luxurious. It's a real grind for lots of benefit of. But then you layer in consumer perception of design and lead times and material and quality issues and all the other things you run into.
Issues.
So and then they want it now, but they want flexibility. You really hard to please everyone, especially in this time where we have a lot of high expectations, but we also have a preconceived idea of how it's done without doing it ourselves.
Correct.
So it's the balancing game. And then they're your customer. So you want to have good rapport and you want them to love your product, but understand where your pricing comes from or your brand positioning. There's so much that goes into it. But as the brand, you also just take a step and respect and appreciate the customer and their feedback, whatever it may be, even if you know how much actually is going into what you're doing or if something might be a little unrealistic. But those are things that then we just go back and deal with in those 100 hours of work.
It's really like a balancing act to find what is the right sweet spot for you and your brand between doing your best to please the customer and give them as much as you can while still respecting the flow and staying true to your quality standard and like your process while also maintaining sanity.
Yeah, totally. It's like you juggle a million things and one kind of tips one way and then you're just like trying to save the other plates from falling.
When it comes to the next 5 years, what are certain things you're looking on to expanding into? Maybe different product category or a different market?
Yeah, product category expansion has been a really big part of Little Trouble for the last 6 months, and that's been massive for us for growth. We're also looking at doing a lot of brand collaborations. So we have some really fun ones coming up where we've teamed up with some other really amazing brands in apparel, and that's going to be fun going into Q4. We've got some fun stuff launching and into the full calendar of next year. I'd also love to continue to pursue wholesale. That's a new channel for me in the last few months. So bigger wholesale opportunities. And eventually, I think we might go brick and mortar for a little capacity, but in a very alternative way of like it's warehousing / showroom / customer pickup, a kid experiential thing. Little Trouble is very experiential and like kid centric. We'll definitely make sure there's a kid hangout and a reason for kids to want to come. So those are some fun business objectives. And then we're also launching a nonprofit in a few months, which I've been working on for a really long time. Little Trouble's always been like a passion project of mine. And I think there's so much that can be done in the community that we've built. That's will be a big focus for me in the next 2 to 3 years for sure.
That's a lot of exciting steps coming ahead. We'll be sure to keep an eye and to stay in touch with Little Trouble. For the listener who wants to connect, all the handles will be linked in the description. Dinah, thank you so much for joining me. It was a pleasure.